The AI bot of Lisa Chinatti has broken out of the
I'm like
professionalism.
blushing now. I try to keep my
She has a
self-very
white
contained.
collared shirt on today too,
Oh,
Byron.
I
I
know,
mean,
I know.
that's the right
She's
uniform.
I have a jacket and everything. I'm like, it's
Must
not
be
a
another
dress, but
presentation for the old folks home. If you are not getting educated on a regular basis about market conditions, trends, and data that's coming out about housing and the current economy, you're doing yourself and your clients a disservice. This is the Knowledge Brokers Podcast. I'm here with Byron Lazine and Lisa Chinatti. I'm Tom Toole. And I've got to tell you, this might be my favorite article that's come out, Byron and Lisa, since we've done the show, where Lawrence Yun came out, and he's the chief economist at NAR, and he was hosting their 2023 NAR legislative meetings. And that sounds very boring, but this is exciting coming out of that, where he eviscerated the Fed with their current actions. He called the rate hikes unnecessary. He says that inflation will not reignite. It will come down closer to 3% by year's end, and it's calmed down while rents are still accelerating. Robert Dietz, the chief economist for the National Association of Home Builders, came out and said it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's impossible to build entry-level housing when you've got, before putting a shovel in the ground, $200,000 in regulatory costs. And he had a great forecast about where prices are going. What did you two think about this?
Lisa. I mean, I'm just returning this week, so I'll let you jump in there first. I'm glad to be back.
wow. Yeah, we missed you.
I know.
We have
We
some
missed
questions
you.
about last week later in the show.
Good.
Facts. So, I mean, I think it was necessary, right? I think it's a double-edged sword, things that we've talked about, where I think that the increase was almost good for stability within the greater economy and the markets. I don't think it was necessary, but I don't think they can cut either. And so I think I understand what Yoon was saying, and it's walking this very fine line. I think the bigger thing to really be looking at, and I've been saying this for months, is affordable housing and what happens 5 and 10 years from now. And I'm glad to see Dietz coming out and speaking strongly about the systemic issues that we have with creating affordable housing in this country.
Yeah, I thought Dietz's comments were much more impactful than Lawrence Yoon's. I think Lawrence just wants to make a big statement because he's getting paid $800,000 or $900,000 a year by NAR, and he rolls out of bed once a month and makes a big splash on a headline, and then goes into hiding. While we do content here every single week, which is more up to the minute. So I was watching CNBC this morning, and somebody said that they believe that on the next CPI report in June, you could actually see inflation in the threes, because we're going to start to pull this shelter data out. And so we're at 4.9. Now we're going to talk about CPI in a little bit, but we could be in the high threes in a month from now, and the markets would go crazy if that happens. I agree with what Lawrence Yun is saying, that inflation will not reignite. Overall, I mean, we're not going to get to 9. So, if that's where he's going, it's still been a rocky road, right? And Wall Street Journal just this morning said that there could be Fed officials signaling support for a further rate increase, because this is according to Federal Reserve Governor Michelle Bowman. She said recent reports have not provided consistent evidence that inflation is on a downward. I believe the opposite, and I believe once you pull shelter out, you're going to see inflation drop. But the Fed isn't convinced yet, and so I don't know if they're seeing something that we're not. If they think there's another shoe to drop in the future, if a banking crisis or something in the future that we are not seeing right now or that we don't know about. But I agree with Lisa that Robert Dietz, chief economist for the National Association of Home Builders, hit the nail on the head. He said, before you put a shovel in the ground talking about new development, new construction for new single family homes, there's $200,000 or more in regulatory costs. And so they reversed this LLPA decision where they were going to incentivize, home borrowers that had lower credit to get a big discount on on their closing costs essentially. And I didn't really have a problem with that, but I also said it wasn't going to work because you're stimulating the bottom. You need to stimulate what Robert Dietz is talking about. You need to take away these regulatory costs with the ultimatum that I'm going to remove regulatory costs if you build affordable housing. If you, depending on the geographical area, if you're willing to build housing under 350,000, under 400,000, right now, housing, new homes are at a median sale price over 450,000 in this country and at an average sale price of over 550,000 in this country. And by the way, we just hit a record. This is according to a calculated risk blog. We just hit a record of new homes making up over 25% of total inventory in the country. It's almost 27% total inventory is new homes. And they're sitting at an average price point of over $550,000. So until we pull regulatory costs out with the ultimatum to, from municipalities, from counties to builders, it says, we're going to pull the regulatory costs out for you to go and build $300,000 homes, we won't solve the inventory crisis. And that, has a lagging effect because you've got to build these homes. But we just keep building up for the last 10 years of being stuck in a systemic inventory issue.
I think it's not just,
Lisa,
I don't think it's, I don't think it's just the regulatory in terms of the cost and the fees. I think we also have to be looking in our communities and looking at zoning requirements and changing some of those to be able to allow a little bit more density or vertical building, right? Because it's twofold. It's such a multifaceted problem, and until we really start to address it.
You'll get pushback in suburbs when you talk about vertical housing, Lisa. I mean, how far are you willing to go on zoning? Because every time, it gets deep into the suburbs, there's a lot of pushback.
Yeah, well, but I think, when you look at some of the suburbs, we're looking at 3-floor limits, right? But like I'm thinking of the community where I live half the time as a 3-floor limit. Increasing that even by one level to a 4-floor limit would increase the number of affordable units that exist, right? Or we have 1-acre zoning. What if that got changed to, be moved down to 1/4-acre zoning in certain parts of the city or town, right? There's so many ways to kind of start to impact this, but they all need to be addressed simultaneously.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about 3 levels to 4. We have a 4-level development that we're closing out now. Now it's not affordable; it's super luxury, but it is in the suburbs. You can, Cooper, you can flash 66 High Street. It's a development that $70 million plus development that we sold out. Yeah, I'll just give myself a little pat on the back here, Tom. I see you smiling, and I'm going to do that. All right, but 4 levels, I don't know if we can get it to an affordable price point. Maybe it'll help if you pull regulatory costs out and, like you're saying, adjust zoning a little bit. Don't go 50 floors in a suburb community. But, okay, what do you need? And this is about having a conversation with the developers. What do you need to be adjusted on the zoning that we can tweak and the regulatory pulled out to be able to get to 350,000? Tom?
Well, and Lisa, I think the more insightful thing, maybe not the stories, but the lot sizes, because we, where we are in Chester County and Montgomery County, specifically Delaware County, not so much, right outside Philadelphia, it's minimum lot sizes in some places of 2 acres. And I mean, so imagine if you just built a townhome community. And what I did while we were talking here is I pulled on Bright MLS right now to give everyone some perspective. The average sale price for new construction, and Bright MLS covers the DC metro area, it covers Philadelphia, South Jersey, parts of Virginia, is $866,000. That's the average of over 5,000 listings. That's not affordable for everybody. You look at where the median income comes in. I mean, it's around $87,000 in our marketplace. So, I mean, you're way above that. And there's these places that there's so little inventory. People want to get into these school districts, and the homeowners don't want to let them in. They want to have these larger lots where we maintain the integrity of the neighborhoods, which I can appreciate. I've seen these zoning meetings. My father did 3,000 plus new home sales in his career, and these meetings, the people get really nasty. Like, they don't want to change anything. And it's not only the local government, but it's also the local residents and the pushback that they give in these public zoning hearings that come up. And we were going through this yesterday with a client, and they asked us for some zoning requirements. They were looking at some lots. One particular township right outside Westchester, Pennsylvania, not a small area, they do not allow townhomes to be built. So, and the minimum lot size is an acre. It's called a residential agricultural district. If you took just a portion of those lands and, okay, we're going to build 300 townhomes here, there would be such demand for that. And you've got to adjust the cost, to your point, Lisa, because the builders can't make any money unless they're doing serious volume there, and they're hamstrung by what's available to be built. So you can't have it both ways. And that's going to be the challenge here in a lot of these cases. So it's local governments, it's federal governments with regulatory costs. And on top of that, it's going to be the local residents kind of allowing that to happen. And I've seen some of these zoning hearings. There was one in the township I live in. It went till 4 a.m. 4 a.m. Could you imagine being in a meeting until 4 a.m.? People just bitching about what was going on. And it was already approved, by the way. And they just wanted to hear themselves complain. So this is the challenge that builders have, is they got these people that live in these communities that don't want to see anything change.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to Lawrence Yune's comments, I think one thing he hit nail on the head was Federal Reserve's aggressive rate hikes have damaged balance sheets for regional and local banks and the important source of commercial real estate loans. That could be an economic catastrophe. Should they continue to raise hikes and we see a number of regional banks fail. You've got people like Warren Buffett saying that's unlikely to happen and that the government will backstop it. But how far can we go backstopping regional banks before you get a real, economic issue? And I said it on the hot sheet today. And for everybody listening here on Knowledge Brokers, I will warn you that if you're turning showings down in May, if you're not taking the work while it's available, May, June, and July, you're going to be kicking yourself in the fourth quarter. Because when we look at the situation with regional banks, we look at the inventory situation, which, we just got into a little bit here. We look at what Lawrence Yune is saying, beating up the Fed and the direction the Fed is going to go to drive us into a breakage of the labor market. Your fourth quarter as a real estate professional is going to look a lot different than quarter two. And I know I've harped on this on past pods, but I want the warning bells should be going off that right now is not going to be the story for the entire year. We're living in volatile times, and take advantage of it while you have it.
I mean, these people that are out there, and I've seen this with all kinds of agents, and it's they're saying, well, I don't want to call my lead. I don't want to respond to it. I don't want to take the appointment. I just don't. You're in a business where you get paid to meet people and sell them houses. And if you don't want to engage in the income producing activity, just get out of the business and give these opportunities to somebody else. Because what happens here is the consumer gets ticked, right? They get disengaged and they're not getting the right information. And there's a trickle down effect here. I mean, this is go time. So I could not agree with you more, Byron. And it's really picking up the phone, having conversations with people, meeting them and selling them houses. That's all real estate agents and knowledge brokers should be focusing on right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
All right, Tom, where we I know you love Lawrence Yune. I think
I like his comments hating on the Fed. And look, we've heard this before from people like Logan Mohtashami. I mean, he's been saying this for months. So the other shoe to drop here, though, is the CPI data, right? So I think this is super relevant here. Byron, you hit on the theory by Barry Sternlicht a couple of weeks ago that the shelter data is going to come out and inflation will drop pretty dramatically.
Well, put his chart up if you could, Cooper. Go ahead.
Yes.
Tom.
And it looks like this may be coming true. Shelter data made up 44% of the inflation number, somewhere around there. So now we're starting
60%.
I'm sorry, 60%. Yeah. That's why I'm fact checking here with my boy. We got each other's back. So we're seeing that the CPI data is a little more favorable now. It's kind of in line with consumer prices cooling further. The CPI rose 4.9% year over year before seasonal adjustments, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And this is the smallest 12-month increase since the year ending April 2021 and the 10th consecutive month of declines. And when you look at all this, Shelter did post a significant increase, rising 8.1% year over year. And you're right, over 60% of the total increase. But we're starting to see these rental prices cool. I mean, the data is starting to come out. And Barry Sternlicht could very well have hit the nail on the head here.
Well, this is where I don't like what Lawrence Yun, for the amount of money he's getting paid. In those same comments of the past article that we were referencing, which is on nowbam.com, he says that rent prices are still accelerating. No, Lawrence, they're not. All you have to do, and you're using the same garbage analysis that the federal government is using, which is an outdated 1980 survey. It's so far behind. All you have to do is go on apartments.com and look at, what's going on across the country. There are markets like Lisa's in Boston where you see, in that particular market, rents are still accelerating. But overall across the country, and Redfin has reported this, apartments.com, you can do the analysis yourself. The rents are actually going down. And the chart we just showed from Barry Sternlicht, who controls 125,000 doors. He's the CEO of Starwood Capital. He's a billionaire. He models this stuff every single day. He says rent prices are going down right now in real time in this country. And when that gets pulled out of the CPI, you're going to see inflation drop, considerably. And that's where I would agree with Lawrence Yun that maybe the Fed is going too much, going too far the other direction. But yeah, I think that, I think rents are only going to go down more in most parts of the country with the inventory. And Lawrence Yun, to his credit, did mention this, that in quarter 3 and quarter 4, we have a lot of inventory for apartments hitting and this is mostly, we're talking Texas, we're talking some of these areas. But when that inventory goes up, you will see prices go down even further on rents. Right now, anytime you go on Instagram or anywhere on social media, you're going to see a whole bunch of real estate agents with courses. A lot of these are not vetted out, and many of these agents that are putting out courses have been in the business less than a year. They've done 2, 3, or maybe even 4 transactions, and all of a sudden now they're a real estate guru putting out courses. If you want one real estate marketplace for business, marketing, and social media, the good news is we've created it. It's called BAMX. Everybody tells you what to do. Well, BAMX actually shows you how to do it. We vetted out all of these courses, and they're from the top professionals in the industry. You're going to get BAMX member courses, which right now include an Instagram course for agents from The Broke Agent, who's grown his channel to over 400,000 users. Also an objection handling course from Toole, the objection handling king himself. A scroll stopping captions course, which is directly from our producer, Bobby, here at BAM. We've got a lead pillar course coming out next month. We have BAMX member live streams every single month. And if you sign up for the annual membership, it costs you about the same as a cup of coffee per month. This is totally undercutting all of the garbage that you see out there in the industry that is trying to steal your money. If you care about your business and you care about all that we're pouring into you, sign up for BAMX today. Our creator courses, you will always get 25% off in perpetuity on. We have the queen of Canva, I should say, Haley Ingram, who started Coffee and Contracts. She has a course. We have Tom Story with a YouTube course and more, all on BAMX. Please consider hitting the link below and checking out BAMX. You do not want to miss it. It is your real estate marketplace and the only one that exists.
Lisa, do you have anything to say here? You look like you're in.
I got nothing to add. That was a lot. No, nothing to add. I mean, I don't think any of it was really unexpected, right? Like, I think we were all kind of knew that this is what the data would show. I was hoping mortgage rates might react a bit more, but at least they didn't go up. So we take it as a positive.
Well, the mortgage rate staying stable, I think, is some of the best news that knowledge brokers and real estate agents and buyers and frankly sellers can have right now, because there's been that fear of that insane volatility we saw at the beginning of the year. You sell your house, let's say you got a 90-day close or 120-day close, which a lot of sellers are negotiating right now. And then, oh, whoops, rates went up from 6 to 7. Now it costs you a lot more money and you've sold your home. And most states don't allow for the seller just to terminate the agreement for whatever reason. I mean, I know people think they can do that. That's just not factually accurate. So I appreciate the steadiness. Do we think rates are going to trickle down a little bit as this data continues to come out? I mean, that's the $1 million question right now. I'm feeling it's going to be a steady Eddie sort of 2-3 months here with rates, like bouncing between that 6 and 6.5 range.
I could see that. I could see it kind of sticking there. You know, Lawrence Yun said it'll be at 6% at the end of the year. You got Fannie and Freddie saying we'll be below 6%. I think it depends on how big of a recession we have, on how low they actually do go.
I don't think they go. I think maybe a smidge below 6, but I think it would be short term. I don't think it's going to be mid 5s, which I know some people were thinking a couple of months ago. But
I mean, Logan Motoshami believes that rates should be in the mid 5s right now, given the spread between the 10-year and what's happening. And he's pretty clear on that. And I think that's another example of where the mismanagement by the Federal Reserve has caused these rates to come up. So if the 10-year continues in this direction, maybe I have a hard time seeing rates come down much lower, because if they were lower, we're going to see a big increase in demand again, and we just don't have the inventory. So I feel like we're on this like hamster wheel right now of, okay, rates came down, there's more demand, not enough housing, can't build. It's just constant, and I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon. I mean, this is the market we're going to be in.
Given the 3.3 BPS spread that we have right now between 10-year and the 30-year, we would have to hit 3.8. We'd have to go over 3.8 on the 10-year to get back to 7%. And we've been pretty, consistently bouncing between where we're kind of at right now, the 3.4 and the 3.6 range. We haven't really touched 3.8 at all. And so given if we stick to that spread, which is abnormal, it's usually a 2-point spread between the 10-year and the 30-year, which would mean to your point, Tom, we should be even lower. But given the current spread that we've been sitting at, having to break 3.8, what would have to happen for the 10-year to get back up, close to 4 and interest rates? I know there was an article today that said, this was according to Zillow's chief economist, Jeff Tucker. He said the U.S. would have to default for mortgage rates to get up over 8% on their debt, which is not going to happen, right? I mean, I certainly hope it doesn't happen, but
we got bigger problems if that happens.
That's right.
No one
may not want to. Yeah, don't speak that into the universe. I feel like it's a little bit whacked right now.
You think it could happen, Lisa?
No, don't speak it into existence. Like that's.
Well,
I'm
just asking. Do you think it's a greater than 10% chance that the government would let the U.S. default on its sovereign debt?
No, absolutely not. However, I also think right now in society, is weird. Oops, sorry.
Oh wow! Look at that! Look at that, Lisa.
Can we bleep that and put a poop emoji over her face when she says it?
The AI bot of Lisa Chinatti has broken out of the professional.
I'm like blushing now. I try to keep my
She has a white collar shirt on on today too, Byron.
Oh, I know. She's
the right uniform.
Oh yeah. She's.
I have a jacket and everything. I'm like.
Must be another presentation for the old folks home.
Oh yeah, she's got something up her sleeve.
I'm forward facing today.
Looking good. What's Posnick wearing? What's Posnick wearing? A Red Sox jersey?
It's probably a fucking Celtics jersey would be my guess.
Ooh,
you see that was not good last night.
It was not good. They had it. It was right there. Oh my God. Talk about how this is actually a good case study for agents, because if you don't follow through on your plan and do the work and you get lazy, you're going to lose, which is exactly what happened to the Philadelphia 76ers last night. That game was in hand. They stopped doing what was working, which is feed Joel Embiid, and all of a sudden they lost the game. So for the knowledge brokers out there, stick to what works, calling people and going on appointments. In this case, it's feed the MVP.
Take the opportunities when they're there.
What happens on the next game? It's like do or die.
Celtics win at home.
Which one of us will be?
Celtics win at home, Lisa. Come on.
This continues my 12 months of seeing teams get close to the championship and lose every single time. It has been great the past 12 months.
All right, Tom, what are we finishing with here?
So, so we talked a little bit about inventory. I know we broke down some numbers here, and then Lisa and I have a question for you from last week. We'll kind of end the show on that. Keep it light. So, inventory declined last week, first time, and we had this like nice couple of weeks where we saw like 8,000 plus homes come to the market, and then nationally we saw a decline of a little over 3,000 homes coming to the market. I know locally here, what we saw over the past 7 days was an increase of 761 new listings coming to the market, including coming soon new listings and back to active, which I want to hit on here for agents. I think there's a play there that you could run to get some additional homes sold. Inventory stalled out again. I was really hoping we would have seen another bump, even if it was just up like 1,000 homes. I would have been happy. But that decline is a bigger issue here that people just are still not ready to take that jump. And we're going to need to see more stability, but it's also, I think it speaks a lot to the builder issue that's out there because people just aren't moving as frequently. I mean, that number's grown significantly. 10 years ago, it was like 7 years. Now we're at 11 years is the average that people live in their homes. And what are you guys seeing locally in your markets?
I thought you had a question
first
for
I
me.
want to say.
We do. We're going to end there. Don't worry.
All right. Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh. Well, I was going to say, I don't think it's a case of not ready to move. In some cases, and across the board, I think it's a bigger case of cannot move. I think that still with we talked about it over and over, the lock at 2 to 3% in an interest rate and moving up into the sixes makes it financially unfeasible, unfeasible, not feasible for some folks to move. And yeah, no, we're down. We were down about 30% in inventory in Massachusetts. But to what you brought up, we have 100 listings that came back on market this week. So deals that fell apart, which I know we were kind of lamenting about this in our accountability call. I think, which one of you had like 2/3 of your deals fall out?
1/3. 2/3 would be even worse. 1/3 still sucks.
Fallout, right?
Well, buyers are in a tough spot because they may have an inspection, and we just had a buyer had an inspection. The furnace and the septic tank both need to be completely replaced. The furnace blew up during inspection, turned it on, and just boom, was 32 years old, and the septic failed. So the sellers are kind of like, hey, we're representing the buyer, but the sellers are kind of like, hey, we've got other offers and maybe somebody's willing to take this on. We may start talking to them. The buyer's been looking for this particular neighborhood, this particular house for a year and a half, has been living with kids at one of the parents' house, sold the house, high, maybe it was a year ago. Maybe it's been a year. Feels like 2-3 years when you're living with kids and in-laws and all this kind of stuff, right? So a year
sounds like hell. That's what that sounds like.
Sell at the peak, and then, living a family looking for this one particular school district, all the stories there. And now you're in this pickle. It's like, what do I do as the buyer coming in? And that would deplete my cash. That would deplete all my cash going new septic, new furnace. What's the advice for the knowledge broker in that situation? I'll get into the inventory for me locally in a second, but what's your advice for agents out there dealing with buyers with these types of concerns, these types of inspection reports? Is why we're seeing deals fall out of contract. Do you let it fall out of contract, or do you try to get them to stay in that deal, knowing how hard it's going to be to get back into another deal?
I think a lot of it comes down to what was done before the deal went under contract, right? And I think the future pacing of understanding what are the issues that are likely to come up and how much tolerance does the buyer have for those issues based. A furnace that's 32 years old, I think one of the conversations that an agent should be having in that situation is, you can tell by looking at it that it's 32 years old and that the buyer needs to be budgeting to replace it. It might work today, but it might not work the day after they move in, and that should be an expense that they're already budgeting for. Septics are a little bit different, and Mass requires passing septic in order to transfer title, so less of an issue for us. But the furnace one, I think that agents can future pace through a lot of that kind of stuff with the knowledge and insight into what are the typical things within a home of that age.
Yeah, and you got a future pace conditions because you already know this in the disclosure without even seeing the property.
It's another example of proper preparation preventing poor performance. I mean, these conversations, and we were talking about this internally at our team. The cadence of communication right now has gotten way too casual with clients. Like they're kind of saying, oh well, we'll do this, we'll do that. It's every single conversation you have with an active buyer or seller, the deal and the transaction's on the line. And if you don't treat your business that way and you're joking around too much, or you're not realizing, hey, this client might want to fire me if I don't handle this properly, or I might lose them if you don't have them under a contract. I mean, the market is just, it's one punch after another. It's like, if you're a buyer right now, it's like getting in the ring with Mike Tyson in the 90s. Like, it's not going to be easy. And if you're not treating every single conversation that way and being on point at these meetings, to Lisa's point, a 32-year-old furnace, you should be telling them, hey, let's budget to replace this, because when I sell your home and if it's working, I'm going to defend that and say, hey, it's not a material defect. That's what the contract calls for in Pennsylvania. A lot of buyers, they always want to get, oh, I want a credit for future improvements. Not the market for that right now. And if you're not explaining this to people at the initial meeting, when you first meet them, or one of the first conversations, and you're just showing them houses and trying to be their friend instead of being their knowledge broker, their consultant, their advisor, their guide in this process, then that's where you're going to see these deals fall out. The flip side here, I'm on my pedestal here, Byron, so please don't interrupt. It is that if you lose the property, right, you're like number two, because you can usually find out, like if you come in like second or third, I'd be on the lookout and tell the agent, hey, we're ready to be the backup offer in case something does go sideways, because some of these buyers are making offers where they go higher than they want to because they're in the moment. And that deal blows out too. And it's not even an issue with the house. It's an issue of, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have bought this house. This wasn't what we wanted to do. And they're looking at like HOA and condo docs as an out, or they're just getting cold feet, or they're using the inspection as an out. So I think that there's two plays here. One is the initial education, and the second is making sure that you're not treating the agent like a jerk, getting upset, bringing emotions into it. Be their friend, be their backup plan, be their plan B, because it's going to make the listing agent look better. And maybe that home doesn't go back to the market. They just go right to you.
This isn't the market for buyer agents to be over promising to their buyers of, I'm such a great negotiator. You could be the best negotiator in the world right now. And when you're up against 40 offers, you might just get blown out of the water. I don't care how many negotiating tactics or skills that you have when you're up against 40 offers, the likelihood of a cash deal coming in and blasting you out of, battleship style, blasting you out of the ocean has increased so much. So if you make those promises, and it's due to the lack of inventory. And so here's a number you may want to share. I'm just reading out of the Wall Street Journal right now. Here's a number you might want to share with buyers to help them realize that there's not inventory coming back on this year to make the home shopping experience easy. It might also be a number you want to share with a seller who's sitting on the fence. Is now the right time to sell? Yeah, it's the perfect time, bud. So as of March 31st, nearly 2/3 of primary mortgages had an interest rate below 4%. Why would 2/3 of homeowners with a mortgage below 4% want to sell? This is according to mortgage data from Black Knight. About 73% of primary mortgages have rates for 30 years. Okay, so 73%. So 3 out of 4 mortgages are fixed for 30 years, and 2 out of 3 of those have a rate below 4%. That entire section of homeowners, unless it's death, divorce, diamonds, diapers, or a diploma, they're not selling. Okay, so you're going to be locked up there for a long time until we get closer to the 5%. That's why I'm rooting for 5% rates by the end of the year, because I think that'll hopefully loosen it up. My local inventory for the week, and I'd love to know from you guys, and in the comments, if you're on YouTube, by the way, leave us a comment, hit the like. It really helps the podcast. And I'd love to know in the comments in your market that you serve, if you're above or below this number. So new listings was 873 for the entire state of Connecticut. There's, I think, 3.3 million people that live in the state. You got 870 new listings. That includes condos. I even got land in there, right? So if I just go to single family,
just put a 10 up.
real quick. Yeah, I mean, this is this is in Portland, Tom.
Yeah.
If you go to single family, so most of those are single family though. 700 of the 870 are single family. Now, back on the market, to your guys' point, we had 107 back on the market. Okay, so like 10 it equals 10% of new listings, or exceeds 10%. I think that's Lisa, fact check me on that. What is that? 13%, 15%, something like that?
Somewhere around 12. Yeah.
12. And then we had under contract continue to show status 530 the last 7 days. Under contract 665. So that number is over new listings. You're talking about over 1,200 in that under contract status. Sometimes you can go continue to show into under contract. So it's not that's not a true number of new under contracts, but still new listing inventory is getting sucked out of the market immediately. Love to know what that looks like in your market. Tom, you gave your local number, right?
Yeah, so I look at a smaller area. We don't have a whole statewide MLS here, and it's 761 back to active coming soon, new active listings. We were trending above 800 for a couple weeks there, so it's a little bit of a drop. And to your point, active under contract and pending, that is 819 properties. So it's outpacing the same thing that you're talking about here. I mean, and it's by a little bit, but this is what we kind of saw during the pandemic, where pendings were exceeding actives, and this is what caused this sort of shortage to happen because of the demand that's out there.
Lisa, are pendings in your market exceeding new listings?
Well, exceeding the new listings, yes. So right now, with singles, multis, and condos, we have 10,791 contingent and under agreement. In active status, we have 5,024. And new for this week, we had 1,258. So our contingent and under agreement is double our, not quite, maybe 35, 40% above our new listings and actives on market.
And
That's
this might
crazy.
just be a weekly situation for Connecticut, because in April, new listings did exceed pendings by almost 600 for the whole month of April, because I just looked at that. So pending sales was 3,067. New listings was 3,687. So that would be something month over month that'd be healthy for all these multiple offer situations. The issue is when you dig deeper into the data, and I'm sure, all the knowledge brokers listening are doing this in their MLS. When you actually dig deeper into that new listing, how much of that is meeting the demand that's out there. Okay. We know we have a drop year over year of last week, 32% drop in mortgage applications, same week last year. So we have less buyers, and the buyers that we have, they're all attacking the affordable price range. Okay. So, that's the problem with some of the new listing inventory that's coming out. You do have people that just want to meet the opportunity from the sell side on either something that's too high priced or is just garbage inventory. I mean, that does exist when you look at the MLS. There's a lot of trash out there. Not putting anybody personally down, Lisa, because I know you would blame me for that. Try to paint me as the bad guy, as you often do, and you as the superwoman.
But when the shoe fits.
I think everybody in their market can look at the MLS and see, some inventory that's just not move-in ready, I guess I would say. Nicer way of saying it.
For sure.
Agreed.
Yeah, those homes always exist. There's no question.
All right, what hard-hitting question do you have for me?
Who won the golf tournament last week? The Big Bam Mastermind. Hello, friends. It's Jim Nance here down at Tiburon.
True. Who? It's Tiburon.
Oh,
you
yeah,
said
we were taking
Tiburon, which is what the Barstool podcast host called it as well. Because I don't know if you guys saw this whole Barstool controversy that I'm engaged in.
I think you're so excited to be on Barstool, Byron. This is what you've been waiting for your entire life. It's finally happened.
I'll get to that in a minute because it fits into Lisa's local market. But who actually won? Who had the low score? It was there was a mortgage professional, Dean Francis, that showed up. He's a New York mortgage guy. really smart guy. He's doing content. He's doing, he's got a call center. So he's growing a team. And I thought I was very impressed with him. He was like a 3 handicap. So I think he had the lowest score. I saw him drive hole number 12 on the black course at Tiburon in Naples, of course. It's a par 4. He drove the green. He actually, outdrove the green. So that was very impressive. But if Dan O'Neill or Eric, the broke agent, tell you that they won, that would be false. They did not win. But I had a huge, Lisa, do you know the Kirk Minahan show?
I do not.
You don't know Kirk Minahan? He was on EEI for a long time, and now he's got a Barstool podcast called the Kirk Minahan Show. And EEI is obviously a local, you know what WEEI is, right? Lisa, please tell me you do.
Yeah, I got you.
It's a local Boston sports. Okay. So anyways, there was his producer says on their show, Kirk was
I heard this. This is unbelievable to me.
It's unbelievable. Kirk goes, "Oh, you guys should start a real estate podcast," because his producer has a real estate background. Of course, he's one of the 87% of agents. He wasn't a knowledge broker agent. He got out of the business 2 years ago because he couldn't hack it. And now he's a producer of this Barstool podcast. And he goes, "Oh, there are some trash products out there. I've had my eye on one podcast for years." Obviously, he doesn't know about knowledge brokers. He would never say that about you, Lisa. He goes, "But Byron Lazine and Nicole White on The Real Word, I've had my eye to take them down for years. If I did a podcast, I would destroy them." So then I called them out. We're going to do a debate on Monday. So by the way, go over to BAM's YouTube channel, subscribe. We're doing a live debate Monday night. It's going to also be simulcast on the Kirk Minahan show. And this guy's going to get destroyed. Anyways, Twitter went crazy.
Can we look up his production before you do this, please?
He doesn't have any. He doesn't have any. But if you go on Twitter, there's a million impressions rather. There's NHL player Ryan Whitley. Is that his name?
I don't follow the NHL.
Whitley. Anyways, he got into it. Everybody's on team knowledge broker side, on my side, because this guy is the butt of every joke. But yeah, Lisa, I'm trending in Boston sports world. So there you go. Tell Paz.
Wow.
I bet you Poznick. So Lisa's what's Jason's proper title right now? What's the title?
Director of sales. I don't know. Whatever.
No titles. Director of sales. Poznick. You might know him from Tom Ferry Ecosystem or somewhere else, but Jason Poznick might listen to Kirk Minahan's show. He might. I don't know. Might not.
Well, I'm going to guess, since he hasn't mentioned any of this, that he probably doesn't, but I will make him listen to it.
You're working him 7 days, 12 hours a day. So that,
14 hours a day. I mean, let's be real. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Any final thoughts, guys?
I'm hoping we see inventory pop. I mean, that seems to be the main issue here. I mean, let's hope these trends continue and the Fed just stops talking out of their ass would be the thing I would hope for over the next 30 days.
Lisa, big tip for everybody going into this weekend, May 13th, May 14th. What are you telling your agents right now?
Celebrate moms, from one mom to all the other moms out there.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. I know Lisa is just looking for points right there. We would love some points from you guys. If you're listening on Apple or on Spotify, please consider leaving a review to Knowledge Brokers Podcast. That would help us out a lot. And subscribing to the YouTube Knowledge Brokers Podcast. Happy Mother's Day to you, Lisa. You are
thanks.
One of the greatest mothers I've ever seen.
When she ships her kids away to boarding school and doesn't have to parent them, that's a power move. So I get
best decision ever. Like, you are just jealous. Like,
I'm not. Father's Day will even go under the radar. It won't be mentioned like it always is. Most underrated holiday out there, Byron. I'm sure you're aware.
Nobody will bring it up.
Yeah. Hey, happy Father's Day. You get to cook a barbecue for the entire family and wait on everybody. That's what happens every year.
Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. I love you, moms.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day. Go make some calls if you're an agent. Goodbye.